bit, you can get in for 10 damage on turn 3. That's pretty freaking scary. Next creature is Vendillon Clique. I run 2 of these guys as well. This card is just an awesome value creature. You disrupt their hand, you get a really strong beater, and you get some flying attack and defense. And so like it's just something that's really important in the format. It gives you some versatility in the air to deal with some other threats. The next creature I'm going to talk about is one that's seen super often in Modern, but one that I really like for my deck. It's Rhox War Monk. He's a 3/4 with lifelink, and the 4 toughness is huge. Like he's the main reason. That's the main reason I played this guy. He doesn't die that easily because a lot of things in the format deal with 3s, like Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix. Like they all deal 3 damage. A lot of people don't run hard removal, and so Rhox War Monk is like critically important to dealing with these threats. He holds on the ground really well. The life gain's not an issue. It really helps when you're swinging in. Say you have an Exalted guy or 2 out there, swing on in with them, gain 5 life. Like that's a pretty big swing in Modern. Next thing I'm going to talk about is a Planeswalker. It's Elspeth, Knight Errant. She's really, really good. The most notable clause on her that I use is the one that gives +3/+3 in flying. If you notice, I have a lot of ground creatures. This is just one way that it's really, really good to push some damage through. If you have a Knight, let's say you have a couple of fetch lands in the graveyard, so he's a 4/4, and then you have an Exalted creature or 2 out. This guy's swinging in for 7, 8, 9 damage, like in the air. That's really scary. Like you get some really big guys coming at you really quickly, and it only costs 4 mana. Like it's a pretty efficient threat, and it allows you guys to punch through really easily. So that's the main creature base, and the Elspeth is another way to get in damage. And then, like to defend your creatures and to have some disruption so that they can all get through. I run some spells, and some of those spells are, first of all, 4 Path to Exiles. This is just, in my opinion, the best removal spell in the format. A lot of people, either the curve starts really, really low, like in Zoo, so that they don't have a ton of use for extra mana, or that a lot of people are really greedy on their mana bases, so they don't have a ton of extra basic lands to go find with it. So it's just really good, efficient removal spell that deals with a lot of different creatures that might be getting in your way, so you can punch through damage to win. Next card I run is 2 Spell Pierce. This card's really strong. A lot of the format, if they aren't killing you with efficient creatures, they're coming at you with some really powerful spells, and so this card allows you to disrupt that and defend yourself really efficiently. Next card, I run 4 Rune Snag. This card's similar to Mana Leak, but the more you get of them in the graveyard, the better it becomes. Once you already have 1 in the graveyard, it's essentially a hard counter to anything in Modern. That's really huge. If you notice, I don't run Snapcaster Mages in this deck, and if I would be running Snapcaster, I'd be running Mana Leaks. But since I'm not running Snapcasters, my Rune Snags are going to stay in the graveyard, then I can be exiled with a flashback, which means that I'm going to want to have multiples of these things in the graveyard, so that's part of the reason I'm running Rune Snags instead of Mana Leaks. Like if I was running Snapcaster, I'd definitely be running Mana Leak instead. Next card I'm running is Negate. Like I said, there's some really, really troublesome permanents in this, or non-creature permanents and non-creature spells in this format that have to be dealt with, and sometimes they have the extra mana to deal with your Spell Pierce and stuff, and so I wanted to have a 1 of Negate to deal with stuff like that. The last card I'm going to talk about is Bant Charm. It was one of those cards I had an extra slot in my deck, and I kind of wanted to find something that was kind of a catch-all. And this card is an all-star against anybody, but it's not terrible against anybody either. I board this card out almost every single time, but at the same time, it's an awesome Game 1 card. And this taught me something about Magic that I hadn't really thought about before, is that in my main deck, I have a card that's really, really versatile, so it's not terrible against anybody, and it's not amazing against anybody, but at the same time, like it's giving me an edge against everyone that I wouldn't normally have if I was going to deal with a card that was more hit or miss. And so it's one of those things that I never really thought about until I made this deck, is something like Bant Charm. I used to think, like, why would you have a card in your main deck if you're going to board it out every single time? And so, like, I'm always going to upgrade in my sideboard slots, but Game 1, this gives me an edge against everybody. It's good against the entire field. Beyond that, I run a pretty standard mana base. I have 10 different fetch lands. They all make my Knight of the Reliquary pretty big. They help me fix my mana. They find, what I'm going to talk about here, the shock lands. They're being reprinted in Return to Ravnica, so these should be a lot cheaper if you guys want to pick some up. They find these, they make your mana really, really good, fix it really easily. I don't know, I very rarely have mana issues with this between the lands and the Birds of Paradise and the Noble Hierarchs. I run 5 basic lands because I feel like you should have some to deal with stuff in case people are tectonic edging you or ghost quartering you or path to exiling you. You want to be able to have some basic lands to make sure that your mana base is secure. Beyond that, I have 4 lands that are a little bit more special. I have 2 Treetop Villages. I have a Faerie Conclave and a Moorland Haunt. These are all either man lands or have ways to give you some reach as the game goes on. Because once in the later turns, you're going to keep drawing mana as the game goes on, and these just give you ways to turn your mana into effective dudes, or to exile some dudes from your graveyard to make some flyers, so that you can punch through some more damage and give you a little bit of reach and a little bit of that edge in the end game, so that you can keep dealing damage and keep working your way through. My sideboard isn't perfect. I haven't updated it recently, so it's a little bit out of date, but I can kind of walk through a little bit of what I have in there if you want to hear about that. I have 1 Qasali Pridemage. Like I said, in the main deck, this guy was really, really good. He's huge against like Affinity and some Birthing Pod decks. He just gives you ways to deal with some of those troublesome artifact and enchantments. I run 3 Kitchen Finks and 1 more Rhox War Monk. These are just ways to deal with a lot of like the burn and really, really fast decks in the format. So we bring this in against like burn or Boros or something that has a really, really aggro game plan that I want to gain some life and defend against and buy myself some time so that my bigger creatures can deal with them. Next thing I have is Sower of Temptation. I really like this guy against some of the decks that have that are just trying to bring in big creatures. So if someone is playing something like Tron, and their goal is to bring in either bring down like an Iona really quickly or an Elishnorn, this gives me a way that I can steal that creature so that I give myself an edge against some really big stuff in the format. It also kind of gives me a way if they are cheating in some like a Gristlebrand or something via a reanimation strategy, which I have seen. And so like you just want to give yourself an edge so that you have outstiff and things like that. After that, I run 2 Wilt Liege. This guy bring him in against Jund. They run a lot of discard between Liliana and Lightning, and it's just another way to deal with that. It says if you discard him, put him into play instead. I might switch these out. There's a new guy who's being printed in Return to Ravnica, who's coming out, and he has the same discard clause. I might bring him in instead. He seems to be a little bit better for me. Then I have Nature's Claim. This is one of those cards I was going to cut. This was for the old Splinter Twin decks, and so since those aren't as important anymore, I've decided to kind of move away from that card. Then I have 1 more Spell Pierce, 1 more Negate for, like I said, more of those troublesome non-creature permanents or spells that might be coming in, such as Karn, or some of just the ramp stuff, Wrath of God, running that I might have to deal with. Next thing I have is Ray of Revelation. This is hedging against stuff like tokens who are going to want to be stacking a lot of enchantments on the board, and I'm going to want to have to deal with those so that they don't have a lot of pump spells, so all of their tokens just get huge and crazy. And then the last 3, I have a Krosan Grip and 2 more Creeping Corrosions. This is just, the Creeping Corrosions are for Affinity because that deck is really, really troublesome, and this is just one way to deal with wiping all of their creatures, and it doesn't let them reset that easily. Because if you just kill 1 or 2 of their things, like they can still just run you over with dudes. But if I have a mana creature, I can play this thing on turn 3, and that really, really slows them down and kind of messes with their hand. The Krosan Grip I'm probably going to be taking out. It's been kind of underwhelming. It's been a little bit worse than just the Qasali Pridemages and stuff like that, so I'm going to try to find a new slot with that. Like I said, this deck isn't really super straight, super like normal. Like I haven't seen a whole lot of other decks like this, but I really, really like it. I feel like I have game against every single deck in the format, and that's really nice to me. I don't feel like I scooped anybody. I don't really crush anybody. At the same time, like if you play it well and you play tight, you're gonna have a lot of games that are gonna be within your grasp, and I really like that about the deck. There's a lot of play and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, Modern is one of my favorite formats. I encourage everybody to check it out. There's a lot of budget options if you want to look in to get into the format cheaply. I'd look into either Burn or Affinity. Under $100. Really cheap. They're really good. They're really fast. They're scary. And then there are a lot of other options if you want to do some of the crazier stuff. You can do some crazy stuff without having to be really overpowered or super expensive like you might have in Legacy. It's really diverse. It's really fun. I encourage everybody to check it out.